My friend, thank you so much for doing this interview with me, especially because we're at the Cameron House, one of the most iconic venues here in Toronto. You're performing here tonight, man.
I am performing here tonight, yeah. It's great to be back here. I played here once 4 years ago, and hopefully it's as good a show tonight as it was then.
Now, I was, as I was getting things set up, I was sort of over-listening to you talking to your PR person, talking about you've been busy, man. You've been traveling around, and congratulations, by the way, on the album. Congratulations on the family. Congratulations on everything that's going on with you, man.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's good. It's good to have a full life.
That's what you look at it as, full life.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
How do you do the touring and family and everything else too? Like, how does that work?
That's a good. That's probably a better question for my partner and my daughter than me. I guess when I get home in a few days, we'll find out if it's working or not.
Now, how old is she right now?
My daughter Violet, she'll turn 3 in December.
That's amazing, man. Is she growing up fast? Like, are you going like, wait a second, you were doing this and now you're doing this?
Yeah, she is. Yeah, and it's like, they have a way of saving it for when you are out of town, and then I get the videos. Luckily, we live in a time where you can stay pretty connected. So I get videos and photos daily, and we try and connect on FaceTime. And it seems like every time I'm out of town, she starts doing something new for the first time, and it's pretty fun to watch.
Having this new family, has it influenced, or did it influence your music as we start talking about this new music that you've been doing?
It did, yeah. I think it influenced some of the decisions I made around music, or maybe the focus with which I was able to make those decisions. I had a lot of apprehension around what coming into parenthood would mean for trying to be an artist, and realistically kind of a struggling artist like myself. And I think one of the most kind of beautiful moment, the most poignant moments I remember sharing with my daughter the day she was born, and kind of when I was holding her for the first time, and she's just kind of settled in, and that's how it felt. Like everything kind of settled, and I felt like, oh man, everything's different, but everything's the same. I'm still the same, and it gave me a certain focus and a certain intention, I think, to continue to carve my path as an artist. Sort of gave me a sense that the best person I can be for her is the best version of myself, and if the best version of myself is an artist or a creative, then I need to honor that. And so it's I think it gave me it helped me find another gear, and both in terms of my output and in terms of my confidence around it, which has been refreshing.
Was part of that gear doing the launch, because that was another platform, man, that really helped put you where you are now.
I don't think I would have applied for the launch if I hadn't become a father. Yeah, 100%. That was the reason I did it, and I think it, both in terms of, again, I wanted to think about, okay, if I'm saying that music is my thing and I'm trying to pursue it passionately, am I really trying everything I can? Am I really throwing everything at the wall? Am I stepping out of my comfort zone? Am I pushing myself still? And so when that opportunity came up, that was an avenue that I had avoided for a lot of years. And you can have a discussion around whether those reasons for avoiding it were good or bad. But there's been a lot of reality type shows and a lot of contest shows.
And I'm going to interrupt, but this was different, though. This was really different because it really was focused on the artist.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I'd taken a hard look at that show, at the format, at the kind of feedback that artists were getting on the show, and it all kind of lined up. And I said, you know what? I think this could be cool, and I think I have a story worth telling, and I think I could get on this thing, and then I did, and that was really fun.
Yeah, and it wasn't so much about, is this artist better than this other artist? It was just, does this artist suit the song? That's one of the biggest reasons why I supported the show, because a lot of these shows, and I'm putting it out there, they're focused on the judges. They're not so much as focused on the artist, because you never hear anything back about the artist. But a lot of folks, whether they want to sing that song or not, I'm still hearing about them, And, you're one of those great examples of that, too. After the show, what were your thoughts in going, okay, you know what? I got my platform out there. Now I need to build on this.
Right. Well, it was good timing with the show around, knowing that I recorded this album called Joy that I wanted to release. And I think it was around a time, this might be something we end up talking about, but of course I recorded that album with a group of guys that have been making music for 7 years.
Because you were in a band beforehand.
That's right. And so we went into the studio with the intention of recording the next Towers and Trees album. And before we were out of studio, it was apparent that, making the record is half the battle, as I'm sure you're aware, and the other half is putting it out there, working it, giving it its best shot in the world. And it was, I think, pretty apparent to all of us in that group that the cohesion and the dedication wasn't there for us to achieve that as a group. And so having done the launch, I think I saw a real opportunity there, and the guys were really supportive around this as well, and kind of gave me that, pass the baton, and it was like, man, you have a chance to kind of assert your presence and your identity, and even the way Towers and Trees work creatively with me being the sole songwriter and the front man, it was a more natural transition than often the whole idea of going from a band to a solo artist is. It felt like a relatively incremental evolution rather than some massive disruption, and it's felt like it's been a great step forward. I mean, and my guitarist Dave Zielinski, my old pal Shred, I call him, he's just sitting over there. He's been playing music with me for 7 years. When it makes sense to have the band's there still for me, and but we have the ability to come out and drive around Ontario in a van and play shows that make sense for where we're at in this moment. So,
which is why you're here at Cameron House. You said the album's called Joy. Talk a little bit about the album, and talk about one of the singles that's out right now too, please.
Sure, yeah. So this collection of songs really came around. Well, I mean, it came out of a lot. You had a lot of kind of growth and change, and not always easy, and kind of evolution and disruption and all these things, both around the band, around my partner and I, becoming parents and stepping into parenthood, just getting older. There's all these things, and so I was finding that I was writing a lot of music out of there, out of that place. But one thing that I found myself reflecting on a lot is, when you're younger, both in childhood and I think in your youth, joy as a state is something that comes quite often and quite naturally. Hopefully, if you've been given the privilege of having that as a stable environment where that can happen, it kind of just wells up inside of you. It's this sort of organic thing, right? As you get older and as it becomes more about providing and growing and learning and pushing yourself, every day there's still opportunity to experience and find joy, but it's not necessarily something you're entitled to. It's something you need to really, I think, seek out, and so that's where I think the name of the album comes from, and I think you can trace that thread through the music, whether it's a song like Head Down Heart Up, which is like this kind of really fun, upbeat song, and yet lyrically it's about kind of pushing forward and working through trying times, or even a song like The Collapse, which was the most recent single, which is ultimately, I mean, it's a song about loss. It's a song that, for me, came from seeing several men in my community who I grew up with passing away over the last few years, all preventable, whether it was overdose or suicide or car accidents or things like that. These are guys that I would have never imagined as a young man that they wouldn't see their 40th birthday. And they, a lot of them left behind families and like children and communities. And so that's where that song came from. But I think even, again, it's an interesting paradox, but I think like even in that process of grieving and letting go, there's an opportunity to experience, where there's still abundance in life, and that can come through as joy even in the darkest moments. It can bring people together in ways that maybe it wouldn't.
But I'm caught in the collapse. I'm caught in the collapse. Now I'm caught in the collapse. I'm caught in the collapse. Yeah.
Does that song become more poignant now because you are a father? And you want to make sure, man, that you do get past 40, 50, 60 to be with your daughter as long as possible.
Yeah, totally. I think that song wouldn't have come out the way it did if I wasn't a father, because what I found myself reflecting on is, I think as a father, as fathers, men, we can have this sense that we need to be a pillar, we need to be the protector, we need to be the kind of this symbol of strength and stability in our family, and in reality, life is and health is just as fragile for us than it is for anybody else, and so it's easy to just operate on this assumption that, well, I'll always be here to protect my baby and to be there for my family, and I think that song came from like, well, but what if you weren't? What would it feel like to have to let go, because there's no coming back this time? And that's sort of what that song is. It's a bit of almost like a conversation, or like, this is what I would imagine saying in that moment as you realize that there's no coming back. It's fairly heavy, but I don't know. It feels sweet in that song to me.
I think we can all relate to it, definitely. You wrapping up the tour now?
Yes, that's right. We're playing here in Toronto tonight, and then tomorrow we're going to drive to Montreal and play a show there. And then the next day we're going to drive back to Toronto and catch a flight home.
Okay, and home is BC?
Home is BC, yeah. And then we're down for a week and a half or something, and then we'll start rolling through BC and Alberta.
Okay, fantastic. So in 2020, to know what you're doing and what's happening, social media is the place to go. Where do we go to follow you?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, you can find me on Instagram, Adrian Chalifour. So Chalifour is Chalifour, like the number 4. Adrian, Adrian. On Facebook, same thing, Adrian Chalifour. YouTube, and anywhere, yeah. You can find me. You can go to adrianchalifour.com, sign up for my mailing list, and I'm hoping to make it. I want to be back on the road through Canada in the spring, and fingers crossed, I'd love to hop the pond for the first time and get over and do some touring in Europe. Hopefully next summer or fall.
Fingers are crossed, man. Congratulations on the success of the career. Congratulations on the album. Congratulations on the family. And congratulations on everything you're going to do in 2020. Congrats.
Thanks, Rudy. Thanks for having me on this. This is great.